Hello and welcome to Axis Asia. Coming up, China searches for ways to speed up its vaccination campaign. From freebies to threats, the goal is to inoculate more than 500 million people by June. As unrest continues in Myanmar, thousands of people flee into the Indian state of Mizoram, including police officers who defied orders to shoot protesters. Our team on the ground reports. And we follow our noses to India, where some international perfumes have their origins. We'll find out why the country has the smell of success. First, while COVID-19 appears to be under control in China, authorities want to be sure to keep it that way. But given low infection rates, motivation has been lagging for some people to get vaccinated. Some places are offering free ice cream. Others are issuing veiled threats. Julia Kim reports.
China's vaccination campaign is speeding up. 4.8 million people are vaccinated at these centers every day. To get shots in arms, authorities are using a carrot and stick approach. Every person vaccinated gets a free box of groceries.
Because there are people who are hesitant to get the vaccine, we needed to find a way to encourage them. So once they're vaccinated, they're entitled to a coupon for free vegetables. Up to now, in our 3 stores, we give out 1,500 coupons a day.
Actually, it's reassuring to have had the vaccine. It's in my interest and everyone else's.
Authorities want to vaccinate 560 million people by the end of June. That's 40% of the population. Those who are hesitant or just late in getting inoculated are named and shamed. Less than 40% of this household has been vaccinated, according to this sticker on their door. This one indicates between 40 to 80%. And a green sticker is a badge of honor.
This sticker shows that everyone who works here has been vaccinated with 2 doses. It reassures customers.
China aims to vaccinate 80% of the country by 2022.
Now, some recent reports say that the effectiveness of Chinese-made vaccines may actually be quite low. That could have an impact not just on China's domestic inoculations, but also what's known as vaccine diplomacy. Here to tell us more is France 24's own Bryan Quinn. Bryan, hello to you. First of all, tell us, what are we speaking about when we say vaccine diplomacy?
Well, China realized pretty early on that the emergence of COVID-19 on its territory was a significant PR challenge, to say the least. In May of 2020, pretty much at the height of the global pandemic, President Xi Jinping sought to kind of get in front of that, change the narrative. He declared that China would make it a priority to provide vaccines worldwide. Beijing, for the moment, has pledged over 500 million vaccine doses overseas. The foreign ministry says 69 countries will be getting their Chinese vaccines free of charge. The Chinese, in fact, don't call it vaccine diplomacy. They say they're just providing a public good. They've dubbed their effort the Health Silk Road to go along with their long-running Belt and Road global infrastructure project. Now, China's made deals to supply over 125 million vaccine doses to Indonesia. We see here 50 million to Turkey, 46 million to Brazil, 40 million to Egypt, 35 million to Mexico. That comes in the context of rich Western countries being accused of hoarding vaccines. Wealthier countries have so far bought around 6 billion of the roughly 8 billion doses of vaccine purchased worldwide. China is basically hoping to step into that gap with its soft power and build goodwill and expand its sphere of influence in places, especially where the West has left this opening for it to do so.
Well, Bryan, whether we call it vaccine diplomacy or a quote-unquote public good, how has it been doing so far?
Well, just like with Western vaccines, there have been delays in both production and distribution. As of January, Chinese vaccine producer Sinovac was only up to about half of its intended production capacity. Actual deliveries of doses across Southeast Asia in particular have been well below targets. Like with its Belt and Road infrastructure projects, there have been some accusations that Beijing is using its soft power to pursue hard policy goals, things like convincing beneficiary countries to drop their official recognition of Taiwan, which China considers a breakaway province. And then there is, as you mentioned, the question of efficacy. A recent study in Brazil showed that Sinovac's vaccine was only about 50% effective. You compare that to the 90% effectiveness of vaccines from Pfizer and Moderna. In any case, China's early edge in this vaccine diplomacy push is already fading. The US, Japan, Australia, they're currently ramping up a partnership with India, which is the world's top vaccine producing nation, to provide over 1 billion doses to the COVAX program from the World Health Organization to vaccinate the world's poorest countries.
All right. Thank you very much, Bryan. Bryan Quinn from France 24. Well, Myanmar has been gripped by unrest since the military seized power in February. Amid an escalating crackdown by security forces, thousands of people have been fleeing into neighboring India. Among them, police officers who had defied orders to shoot protesters. Our team in India sent us this report from the northeastern state of Mizoram.
In Mizoram's hilly capital, Aizawl, the basement of this house has become a refuge for these men. Moe, not his real name, is one of dozens who are living here with a limited supply of food. He walked 3 days and 3 nights to make it across the Indo-Myanmar border. He had to leave his family behind. 24-year-old Moe was a policeman in Myanmar. He's now living in hiding, far from his loved ones.
We received a command from our superior officers to shoot and kill protesters and innocent civilians. But we couldn't bring ourselves to follow these orders. We left our country to protect the people and to save ourselves.
Moe is among scores of Myanmar police officers who have escaped to the northeastern parts of India. They and their families fear repercussions back home for refusing to obey the military junta's orders.
Since the situation isn't getting better, I have no other choice. I want to try and bring my family here. We have to live here because it's not safe for us back home.
In this part of India, there is sympathy for the plight of those fleeing Myanmar, since they all share close ethnic ties. Mizoram has a 404-kilometer-long border with Myanmar's Chin state.
I remember in the old days, many of our Chin brothers and sisters would come from the Chin Hills in Myanmar, and we welcomed them into our homes. We became friends and went to school together, and we all knew that we came from the same community and that we were family.
Rangchal has witnessed a similar situation before. He saw an influx of refugees in the 80s when the military junta took control in Myanmar.
If we don't come to their aid, then who else will help? It is our duty, as they are our brothers and sisters.
A few kilometers away from the capital, more than 1,000 refugees who crossed the porous border are now living in this small town for the past month. A local NGO led by Peter Changte has come forward to help them.
The refugees came to Mizoram with no money, no food and shelter. They don't even have a change of clothes. So we have to think about their lodging, getting them food and bedding. Our organization is at the forefront of providing accommodation. We're trying to do our best.
Locals have donated various items which Changte is distributing today.
These are some essential items that our brothers and sisters need right now at the camp. But due to reasons of security and their safety, we will just hand it over to them here.
India's federal government and Mizoram's state government are at odds on how to deal with those fleeing Myanmar. Last month, the BJP-led government at the center issued an order to authorities in the region to prevent an illegal influx of refugees and to identify and deport illegal migrants. But the Mizo National Front Party, which is in power in Mizoram, opposes this.
We are not very happy with the standing instruction of the Ministry of Home Affairs that they should not be allowed to enter Mizoram and that they should be, turned back. Our sympathies lie with the people who come across the border to seek refuge in our land. And therefore, we would like to give them the basic facilities, amenities, and protection.
For Moe, the deportation order is like a sword hanging over his head. He believes that sending him back to Myanmar will be a death sentence.
My biggest fear is that they'll tell us that we can't live here and send us back to Myanmar.
As the Myanmar military shows no signs of loosening its grip on power, for Moe and thousands of others, the hope is that India can provide them the sanctuary they need.
And for this next story, we stay in India, but on a lighter note. Consider rosewater, jasmine oil, and sandalwood. The country has a rich history of ingredients used by perfumeries around the world. Cami Nedlek tells us more.
Many high-end perfumes start off life here, in these fields of beautiful and fragrant flowers in the northern state of Uttar Pradesh. Niraj harvests 20 kilos of damask roses per day, each carefully hand-picked.
I only pick the ones that have blossomed. The young ones mustn't be plucked.
The flowers then go to this middleman. He buys the sacks of petals at around 35 rupees, which works out to 40 euro cents per kilo, before selling them on to the distilleries. The petals are put into these huge jars and heated by a wood fire to create a substance called attar, a fragrant oil used in the concoction of perfumes. It's then sold on to some of the biggest brands in the world, including French parfumiers. 100 kilos of roses makes just 0.5 grams of rose oil, which explains why attar is sold at up to 4,000 euros per kilo. The industry has also been hit hard by shortages of sandalwood oil, which is the base substance for making attar. The workers here must breathe in the toxic smoke all day long. Employees earn the equivalent of 60 euros per month.
It's tough to work here. It's hard to breathe and our eyes water all the time.
Some labs in the city make their own scents, using only natural ingredients. The town's perfume know-how is a source of local pride.
If they are not good, how the entire economy of this entire town will be based on perfumery.
Kannauj can trace its ancient art back to the Mughal Empire, and to this day, perfume making supports some 50,000 families.
Well, that's it for this edition. Thank you for watching. Please stay tuned to France 24.